Hi, it's Rachel and I have Mary with me, and today we're going to work on loose leash walking. Now, in a few days we will work on the loose leash walking with Sam and Mary together. However, it's important to introduce each dog to it beforehand, so that way they're familiar with it, because if one dog is pulling and one dog isn't, and you have to do something that corrects both of them, the dog that wasn't pulling is going to be confused. So it's good for them to be exposed to it and have some practice before we add the challenge of them doing it together. So first thing with the leash, especially since you have two big strong dogs, to hold the leash properly and comfortably, you put your thumb through the loop and make a fist and hold it like this. That way, no matter how hard they pull, it's still comfortable, and no matter what, they cannot get the leash out of your hand. It will not slip out of your hand. You can control the slack with your left hand, like this, and usually if they're heeling or something, you walk them on the left side. However, for this loose leash walking these techniques that I'm about to show you, you give Mary the entire leash. That way she has 6 feet to walk around. She has plenty of stuff to sniff and all of that, and so she's still getting a lot out of the walk, and she can explore plenty. Also, with her having the full leash, you can tell right away when she's pulling when you're like this. So a couple methods that we have, I call the back method and reverse method. Now the back method is where you're walking, and say she starts pulling out in front of me. You're walking, you stop, plant your feet where they are, pat your leg and say, "Mary, back." And she comes back a little bit, giving some slack in the leash, and then you continue. For the reverse method, you're walking, and if she starts pulling in front of you, you turn 180 degrees, give the leash a little bit of a wiggle, and say, "Mary, this way," and start walking in the other direction. Now, I know a lot of times, if the dog is pulling, our instinct is to, choke up on the leash, yank it back, try to get them back. However, that's not the best technique to use, because if a dog feels like they're being restrained or they sense your frustration, that can make them more frantic and fight harder to get forward. So, you want to try to avoid that. With the reverse method, when you're turning around, you're not yanking her around and using your muscles to pull her, because especially if you're walking both of them, you're not going to win in a battle of strength, because they definitely will. You're just giving a little tug or a couple of pops on the leash, a little wiggle, just to get their attention. And when they see you walking in the opposite direction, that gets their attention and they'll follow you. So, it's important to practice this at least 20 to 30 minutes a day, and once they're each exposed to it, it's important to never let them get away with pulling on the leash again. This sets up just good leash manners, and it makes life a lot easier for you. So I'm going to start walking Mary around, and we're going to focus on the back method and see how she does. So Mary, come on. Okay. Mary, back. Mary, back. Good girl. Good girl. Good. Mary, back. Good girl. Come on. Good girl. Mary, back. Good girl. Okay, she's doing pretty well. We don't have a whole lot of room here where I fit in the camera, and so she's gotten pretty comfortable with this area, so she doesn't feel the need to really pull. The first time she wasn't super responsive to me saying back. She kind of was, I had to say it a couple times and she was still walking around, but after that she responded a lot better, which is good. So now I'm going to try the reverse method with her and see if that gets a better response. Come on, Mary. Mary, this way. Mary, this way. Good girl. Good girl. Mary, this way. Mary, this way. Mary, this way. Good girl. Good job, Mary. All right, that was really great too. We were able to walk this entire way back without her pulling. After a few times, dogs start to understand why they're getting corrected and why they're having to turn around or stop. Now, for loose leash walking, we don't normally use treats because the treat is that we get to continue our walk, which the dogs definitely want to do. They don't want to just stand here like we are in this video. They want to actually get out and see stuff. So, that is enough treat for them that they get to continue walking. Now, I like the reverse method a lot. It's important to practice both because if you have a set destination, say you're coming in here to drop them off at daycare and you're working on them not pulling between the car and the office, it can take you a long time to get here if you have to turn around and, you know, go the other direction every time they start pulling. You know, just going back and forth, back and forth. So that's where the back method might be a good idea. Also, if you have to take them into the vet for their shots, yearly checkups, anything like that, same kind of thing. When you have a set destination, sometimes the back method is a bit easier and quicker. However, if you're just taking them out for a leisurely walk, I really like the reverse method. That's because you can use it and get their attention a little bit better than you can with the back method. So if she is lagging, sniffing at something, I can continue in the direction I'm going, just give a tug on the leash and say, Mary, this way, and keep walking. Or a lot of times dogs sniff out to the side, and so if they're out all the way to my right, it doesn't make sense for me to turn around and go back. That way, that's only a 90-degree turn. From there, I can just turn 180 degrees from where she is, so if she's at my right, turn to my left and say, Mary, this way. And so you're able to correct a bit better from all directions and, you know, to keep the pace up and keep them walking with you. Excuse me. Also, with the reverse method, it sometimes gets their attention a bit better. If they're super distracted and they aren't listening to the back method, if you give a little tug on the leash, like right now Mary's pulling, so I'll say, Mary, this way. Right away I get her attention. Mary, back. Back. Good girl. She's responding well to the back method too, but we don't have too many distractions here. It gets their attention, the reverse method gets their attention a bit better, and when they see mom walking off in a different direction, they get excited and they want to go in that direction too, because they feel like they're going to miss out on something. Also, sometimes you can walk and make it more distance before they start pulling again. Because with a 6-foot leash, if they're pulling completely in one direction, then you turn and go the other way, they have to make up 12 feet before they start pulling again. Instead of with the back method, they come back just a little bit, and then after a few steps they can be pulling again. It's they walk on a loose leash for longer with the reverse method, which is why I like it. However, it is important to practice both, and especially with walking two dogs, we'll see how they respond, and it might be best, the back method might be best for them when walking them together. Because like I said, if you have to turn around and one wasn't pulling, and you have to turn around because the other one was, that can be confusing to the one that wasn't pulling if they're getting corrected when they weren't doing anything wrong and they didn't need the correction. So now that she's been exposed to this, we might practice it one more time before we hook her and Sam up together. And also, we want to go over this with Sam before we do them together. So I hope this helps, and remember to practice this at home for 20 to 30 minutes a day so it becomes a habit for her to always walk nicely on the leash. This was Rachel and Mary, and we were working on loose leash walking.